From Mike Van Wyck jabbing a fellow fitness influencer in the throat mid-workout to Paul Boshi stabbing his girlfriend over 20 times and beating her for nearly an hour. In this video, we're looking at 10 bodybuilders who found themselves in violent fights behind the scenes. Let's kick things off with Paul Boshi. A national-level NPC middleweight bodybuilder from Macomb County, Michigan, was involved in a high-profile domestic violence case in 2018 that drew significant attention due to its brutality. What makes this case particularly disturbing is that the entire 45-minute assault was recorded by home surveillance cameras, providing an unfiltered view of domestic violence at its most savage. On July 29, 2018, Paul Boshi, then 35 years old, brutally attacked his live-in girlfriend, Christina Perry, aged 22, at their shared residence in Washington Township. The assault was not a momentary loss of control. It was a sustained, calculated attack that lasted nearly an hour. The statistics of the violence are staggering and almost beyond comprehension. According to court records and prosecutorial statements, the attack involved 107 punches, 85 kicks, and 28 stab wounds inflicted with 4 different knives. But the brutality didn't stop there. Additional bludgeoning with various objects, including bar stools, candles, a Bluetooth speaker, shoes, and a can of bodybuilding supplements. The assault left Christina Perry with severe injuries, including 20 stab wounds to her right leg, 2 to her cheek, brain bleeding, 2 rib fractures, nose fractures, and ear lacerations. The fact that she survived this sustained attack is nothing short of miraculous. She was found bleeding on the porch of their home by neighbors who called the police. Boshi fled the scene but was apprehended nearby, covered in blood. Perry was hospitalized and, remarkably, was reported to be in stable condition, with claims from her later testimony that she was doing laps in the hospital within a week. The prosecution described the attack as the most savage beating ever recorded on video, labeling Boshi's actions as evil, barbaric, and sadistic. The incident was reportedly triggered by Perry threatening to leave Boshi due to his infidelity and her posting his photo on Instagram. In September 2019, Boshi pleaded no contest to attempted murder, torture, and illegal possession of steroids. The drug and torture charges were later dismissed as part of a plea deal, leaving the attempted murder charge as the primary conviction. The sentencing hearing was filled with controversy and drama. On December 15, 2021, Boshi, then 39, was sentenced to 14 to 20 years in prison by Judge Joseph Toya in Macomb County Circuit Court. The sentencing hearing was contentious, with Boshi arriving in a wheelchair, claiming he was unwell, which delayed proceedings. Boshi faced an additional 93-day prison sentence for assaulting his uncle, who had arranged to post a $1 million bond for Boshi's release in the attempted murder case. Boshi's violence stunned even seasoned prosecutors. But what happens when a gym feud turns physical in front of millions? Mike Van Wyck, a Canadian bodybuilding coach, is accused of assaulting Jeff Nippard, a fitness influencer, on October 21, 2024, at Pure Muscle and Fitness Gym in Burlington, Ontario. This case represents a clash between 2 different philosophies in the fitness world: traditional, experience-based training versus science-based, evidence-driven approaches. Mike Van Wyck is a Canadian bodybuilding coach known for his traditional, experience-based approach to fitness, with a significant following on Instagram, 287,000 followers. Jeff Nippard, on the other hand, is a prominent fitness influencer and natural bodybuilder, renowned for his science-based training methods, with over 5.8 million YouTube subscribers and 2 million Instagram followers. The conflict began brewing on social media, where philosophical differences in training approaches created tension between the 2 men. Prior to the incident, Van Wyck posted an Instagram reel on October 18, 2024, disparaging science-based scammers, a critique aimed at the evidence-based wing of the fitness industry, where Nippard is a key figure. Nippard responded in a video, defending his approach and offering to discuss the matter privately with Van Wyck, though he noted Van Wyck had blocked him on Instagram. What should have remained a professional disagreement escalated dramatically when both men found themselves in the same gym. On October 21, 2024, at Pure Muscle and Fitness Gym in Burlington, Ontario, the tension escalated into a physical altercation. The incident was captured on video and quickly went viral across social media platforms. Video footage, widely circulated on social media, shows Van Wyck approaching Nippard during a training session, engaging in a brief verbal exchange, and then allegedly jabbing Nippard in the throat twice. Reports also indicate that Van Wyck shoved Nippard's cameraman, who was filming the session for Nippard's YouTube channel. The gym where the incident occurred took immediate action. Pure Muscle and Fitness Gym responded by banning Mike Van Wyck from their facilities, including prohibiting him from training others at the location. This decision reflected the seriousness with which the establishment viewed the incident and their commitment to maintaining a safe environment for all members. Legal consequences followed swiftly. Jeff Nippard pressed charges against Mike Van Wyck, leading to an investigation by the Halton Regional Police. police. On October 22, 2024, Van Wyck was charged with 2 counts of assault, as confirmed by TMZ Sports and other outlets. The fitness community's response was overwhelmingly supportive of Nippard and critical of Van Wyck's actions. Joey Swole, a prominent figure in the community, confirmed via Twitter on October 22, 2024, that Nippard had pressed charges, stating, "It is never okay to put your hands on someone the way Mike did to Jeff, in the gym or anywhere." The internet watched Van Wyck's gym clash play out, but the next man made headlines for taking on the police during a pandemic protest. Andreas Mikli, a gym owner from Wood Green, North London, became notable during the COVID-19 pandemic for his stance against lockdown measures. His actions during this period led to significant legal and public attention. Mikli was the owner of Zone Gym in Wood Green, which he had operated for approximately 5 years as of 2020. The gym became central to his public profile during the COVID-19 lockdowns, reflecting his stance on business operations during restrictive measures. His philosophy was simple. He believed that keeping his gym open was essential for public health and that government restrictions were unjustified. The confrontation that would make Mikli infamous occurred during one of the most tense periods of the pandemic. On December 19, 2020, Mikli participated in an anti-lockdown protest in central London, coinciding with the announcement of Tier 4 restrictions. What began as a peaceful demonstration quickly escalated into violence. Reports from multiple news outlets, including Metro News, ITV News, and The Sun, detail that he clashed with police during the protest, requiring around 10 officers to subdue him. The image of multiple police officers struggling to restrain a single individual became symbolic of the broader tensions between government authority and individual resistance during the pandemic. This event was part of a larger demonstration involving hundreds of protesters, resulting in 29 arrests and injuries to 5 police officers. Mikli was arrested near Trafalgar Square, and during his arrest, he stated, "I'm going to keep doing this until we're free," as he was led to a police van. Mikli's legal troubles extended beyond the protest incident. Mikli's refusal to close Zone Gym during the second national lockdown led to significant legal action. Haringey Council issued him a £67,000 fine, with additional court costs reported at around £9,000. The council sought and obtained a closure order, enforced by Highbury Corner Magistrates Court, mandating the gym to remain shut for 15 days as of November 2020. Despite these legal pressures, Mikli expressed his belief that keeping the gym open was the right thing to do socially, morally, and scientifically. Eventually, the legal pressure became too much to bear. He eventually shut the gym after police blocked customers from entering, but reopened legally on December 2, 2020, with significant support, claiming his protest influenced government decisions on gym reopenings. Mikli's experiences during the lockdown inspired him to enter politics. Inspired by his experiences during the lockdown, Mikli announced his candidacy for Mayor of London in November 2023, running as an independent. Mikli's defiance took him from gym owner to political hopeful. But the next story strips away the politics and dives straight into a story about a celeb nobody thought could fight, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The story has been recounted primarily by Jerry Brainham, a former competitive bodybuilder, fitness journalist, and eyewitness who trained at Gold's Gym during that period. According to Brainham's detailed account, the confrontation began as a verbal argument when an unidentified man, a self-proclaimed boxer who frequented the gym, claimed that Rick Wayne was all steroids and relied on performance-enhancing drugs rather than natural talent. Now, Rick Wayne was a former Mr. Universe from St. Lucia who trained with Arnold in the 1960s and 1970s, and their friendship ran deep. In fact, Wayne later recounted receiving his first bottle of Dianabol, an anabolic steroid, from Schwarzenegger in Munich during the 1960s, highlighting how open discussions around performance enhancers were in bodybuilding circles during that era. When this self-proclaimed boxer decided to disparage Wayne's achievements, attributing them solely to steroid use, Arnold wasn't about to let it slide. The Austrian champion stepped up to defend his friend. The boxer attempted to punch Schwarzenegger, who ducked and countered with a few punches of his own. Here's where the story gets particularly interesting. Arnold's training partner, Franco Columbu, stood by without intervening, reportedly wanting Arnold to handle it himself to teach him a lesson. Columbu, himself a formidable competitor and close friend of Arnold's, clearly had confidence in the Austrian's ability to handle the situation. But the fight took an unexpected turn when Schwarzenegger secured the boxer in a headlock. In a desperate attempt to escape, the boxer bit Schwarzenegger on the arm, which Brainham described as absolutely shocking. The guy bit Arnold. He bit Arnold as Arnold had him in a headlock. He bites him. The fight isn't mentioned in Schwarzenegger's autobiographies like Total Recall, My Unbelievably True Life Story, 2012, or official biographies, suggesting it was viewed as a minor, anecdotal event rather than a defining moment in his life. And perhaps that's exactly what it was. Just another day at Gold's Gym, where larger-than-life personalities sometimes led to larger-than-life confrontations. Arnold's brawl became gym legend, but the next fight started over something as small as a camera frame and ended with a knife being pulled. Kaylee muscle. The incident happened on January 24, 2021, during a workout session at Gold's Gym Venice, famously known as the Mecca of bodybuilding. Kaylee was there with his collaborator Big Boy, a fellow YouTuber and ex-con, and their camera crews, filming content for their respective channels. What started as a routine filming session would quickly spiral into a confrontation that would be dissected and analyzed across social media platforms for years to come. The trouble began with something as mundane as gym policy. Kaylee and Big Boy were using heavy gold-plated dumbbells for content, but weren't wearing masks properly between sets, violating COVID-19 rules at the time. When a gym manager approached them about the violation, it led to a heated exchange that would set the tone for everything that followed. What really seemed to trigger Kaylee's anger wasn't just the mask correction, it was what he perceived as disrespect. The manager said, "I've got no idea who you are," despite Kaylee's fame, and Kaylee responded aggressively, asking, "Do you know who we are?" The manager asked them to leave, and they complied, but were visibly agitated. This is where most people would have cooled off, maybe vented to their friends, and moved on with their day. But Kaylee's frustration was far from over, and what happened next would prove that sometimes the most dangerous moments come not from planned confrontations, but from random encounters when emotions are already running high. As they wrapped up filming outside, a random passerby, an unidentified man entering the gym, accidentally walked through their camera frame. In any other circumstance, this might have been a minor annoyance, maybe warranting a "hey, watch it," or at most an eye roll. But Kaylee, already riled up from the gym encounter, saw this as another sign of disrespect. What happened next shocked even those familiar with Kaylee's prison stories and a tough guy persona. Kaylee shoved the man and pulled out a knife, escalating what should have been a minor inconvenience into a potentially deadly situation. The man, caught completely off guard, initially apologized, saying, "Oh, my bad, you good?" The kind of response most reasonable people would accept and move on from. The incident was captured in Kaylee Muscles and Big Boy's YouTube videos, though some content was later edited or removed for sensitivity. But raw footage circulated widely across social media platforms, and the court of public opinion was swift and harsh in its judgment. No arrests were reported, but the video went viral, with Kaylee and Big Boy joking about not returning to Gold's Gym. Kaylee's confrontation blurred the line between content and conflict. The next clash? Pure ego, played out in front of wrestling's biggest names. Bill Goldberg versus Chris Jericho. The specific incident that triggered their fight occurred on Goldberg's first Raw episode. Jericho wrestled in a tag match against Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Booker T, and afterward, he was informed that Goldberg had been criticizing his performance backstage to Kevin Nash. According to reports, Goldberg claimed Jericho didn't know how to sell properly and referenced their unresolved WCW issues. For Jericho, who prided himself on his technical skills and professionalism, this was the final straw. Jericho entered the locker room where Goldberg was sitting with Nash and others, including the Hurricane, and directly asked Goldberg if he had a problem. The confrontation that followed would shatter any illusions about Goldberg's real-world toughness and establish Jericho as someone not to be underestimated. The argument escalated when Goldberg accused Jericho of burying him online during their WCW days, while Jericho denied it and pressed about the recent comments. What happened next was described in vivid detail by multiple witnesses and would become the stuff of wrestling legend. Goldberg, described as grunting like a Neanderthal, grabbed Jericho by the throat. Jericho, drawing from his experience as a bouncer in Calgary and training in the Heart Dungeon, swatted Goldberg's hand away and shoved him with both hands. The Heart Dungeon, run by the legendary Hart wrestling family, was known for its legitimate wrestling training and for producing tough, technically skilled wrestlers. This training would prove invaluable in the seconds that followed. Goldberg charged like an NFL lineman, his pre-wrestling background, but Jericho sidestepped, applied a front face lock, a shoot wrestling hold comparable to a bear trap, and took him down. What followed was a masterclass in how technical skill can overcome raw size and strength. They scuffled on the floor, spilling briefly into the concourse where fans could see, until broken up by agents and wrestlers like Arn Anderson, Terry Taylor, Christian, Booker T, and the Hurricane. Remarkably, Nash reportedly remained seated, watching without intervening, perhaps understanding that Goldberg had bitten off more than he could chew. Jericho maintained the upper hand throughout, later joking that he stretched Goldberg. Vince McMahon reportedly called Jericho afterward, upset he hadn't been informed immediately about the incident. While the fight didn't lead to suspensions, it did fuel an on-screen feud that culminated in a match at Bad Blood 2003 where Goldberg defeated Jericho, though by then, everyone knew who had really won their encounter. The reconciliation between the two came years later. By 2022, Goldberg and Jericho reconciled on Jericho's Talk is Jericho podcast, where Goldberg apologized, admitting Jericho kicked his ass and suggesting others, possibly Nash or Triple H, manipulated the situation to pit them against each Other. Jericho's takedown proved skill can humble size, but our next story shows how a street fight can turn deadly in seconds. Andrei Drachev. The incident began around 7 a.m. inside the Galleria Cafe on August 20th, 2017, where Drachev and Alakvaranov, along with others, debated the merits of their sports, specifically whether MMA or powerlifting bodybuilding was superior in a street fight scenario. It was the kind of argument that happens in gyms and sports bars around the world every day, athletes from different disciplines arguing about whose training would be more effective in a real fight. Usually, these debates end with each side agreeing to disagree and going their separate ways. But this morning would be different. Accounts vary about how the verbal exchange escalated. One eyewitness claimed Alakvaranov and his friends taunted Drachev, even kicking him while he attempted to defuse the situation by writing down his phone number for a later resolution. Alakvaranov's relatives countered that Drachev insulted him by calling him a piglet. Whatever the specific words were, they proved to be a deadly catalyst. The verbal exchange turned physical, and the group moved outside to an intersection for an unlicensed bare-knuckle brawl. What makes this particularly tragic is that 2 police officers arrived at the scene but failed to intervene, later facing their own convictions for negligence. Imagine being those officers, watching a situation escalate and making the decision not to intervene, only to later realize that their inaction contributed to a man's death. The brawl unfolded in 2 rounds and was recorded on security cameras and bystander cell phones, providing graphic evidence used in the trial. In round 1, Drachev charged aggressively, but Alakvaranov took him down, landing punches and kicks that staggered the larger man. The fight briefly paused, with Alakvaranov walking away before it resumed and eventually fizzled out. In round 2, Drachev removed his shirt and advanced again. What followed showed both men's character in different ways. Both men showed momentary respect, fist-bumping, and allowing time for Drachev to fix his shoe and zipper, before Alakvaranov maintained distance and taunted him. Even in this heated moment, there were flashes of sportsmanship, suggesting that neither man truly wanted things to end tragically. But then came the sequence that would end everything. Alakvaranov delivered a high, left roundhouse kick to Drachev's head, followed by a spinning left hook kick and a soccer kick, knocking Drachev unconscious. As Drachev fell, his head struck the pavement, and Alakvaranov continued with punches to the head until bystanders intervened. Drachev was rushed to Khabarovsk's 2nd Regional Hospital with massive head trauma, including a fractured skull, but resuscitation efforts failed, and he died without regaining consciousness. Alakvaranov fled the scene, but surrendered after a police manhunt. He was charged with intentional infliction of grave harm, resulting in death, and then sentenced to 18 years in prison. Drachev's end was a brutal reminder of how quickly respect can vanish. The next fighter's downfall came not in the street, but under the bright lights of the ring. Kevin Wolter. Wolter's fitness journey began in childhood, initially struggling with overweight issues. His father introduced him to combat sports and weightlifting, which laid the groundwork for his bodybuilding career. He has competed in several International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness (IFBB) events, aiming for his IFBB Pro card, and is an ambassador for supplement companies like NeoSups. His YouTube career started in 2016 with the Hard Gainer crew before launching his own channel in 2017. However, his bodybuilding journey faced significant setbacks. He faced a significant setback in April 2022 when he tore his right pectoral muscle while bench pressing 190 kilograms, requiring surgery and a 6-month break from heavy training. Despite his impressive physique and strength, his boxing matches became cautionary tales about the difference between bodybuilding muscle and fighting ability. His first foray into combat sports revealed the stark difference between gym strength and ring experience. His second and more documented boxing disaster occurred on October 1st, 2023 at the Hartslandhalle in Ilsenburg, Germany, organized by Universum Box Promotion, where Wolter was knocked out in the first round by Abu Habib with a powerful right cross. The bout ended quickly in the first round, with Habib landing a right cross followed by another hard right, knocking Wolter out cold. Reports expressed hope that Wolter suffered no major damage and might consider ending his boxing career after this loss, indicating the physical toll of these matches. Wolter's ring disaster showed the limits of brute strength, but the next man showed brute strength could still help you when outnumbered. Patrick Moore. On January 23, 2025, IFBB pro bodybuilder Patrick Moore was involved in a physical altercation outside Leader Fitness Gym in what he described as a 2-on-1 ambush. The fight stemmed from a dispute over gym membership payments and accusations that Moore was selling steroids from the facility. What makes this incident particularly significant is the timing. Moore, who was preparing for the 2025 Arnold Classic bodybuilding competition. Moore arrived at Leader Fitness Gym around 5:30 a.m. with clients for a training session, but his key tag to access the gym failed, turning red at the door scanner. This was unexpected, as his membership payment had been auto-drafted recently. Moore Moore spoke with front desk employee Misty, who explained that the gym owner, Patrick, had blocked his membership due to unpaid gym rent. Moore disputed this, citing proof of payment. What happened next transformed a billing dispute into a physical confrontation. While standing by his car after the session, the gym owner approached Moore aggressively, screaming profanities and initiating physical contact. Moore attempted to de-escalate, suggesting they discuss inside, but the situation turned violent. Moore's account of the fight reveals both his restraint and his readiness to defend himself when necessary. "I said, hey man, this is really a conversation we can go inside and handle," Moore explained, demonstrating an initial attempt at de-escalation. But when reasoning failed, his boxing background became crucial. On icy, wet ground, the gym owner swung first, but Moore, leveraging his boxing experience, dodged punches and landed a right hook, knocking the aggressor down. This is where Moore's Golden Gloves training proved invaluable. While his opponent may have initiated the fight, Moore's superior technique and experience allowed him to control the situation quickly and decisively. But the situation escalated further when an onlooker intervened, attempting to choke Moore from behind as he engaged the downed man. Moore defended against both, noting the primary aggressor seemed hyped or on something due to erratic behavior. "I could tell he was either on something or I don't know what had him so hyped," Moore observed, suggesting that substance use may have contributed to the aggressor's irrational behavior. Moore's reflections on the fight reveal the mindset of someone who understood the stakes involved. "I'm 5 weeks out from a show. I'm not about to fight you on some ice or wet ground." When the situation became unavoidable, Moore's attitude shifted decisively. "Once he hit me with that cheap shot, then now I'm going to try to kill you," he explained, indicating a shift from attempted de-escalation to full defensive mode. The altercation concluded with Moore pulling away, but the aftermath included threatening messages. One of the men threatened Moore via text, saying, "You're going to catch a murder charge for knocking someone's temple," demonstrating the continued hostility even after the physical confrontation ended. Police were called, and Moore shared a photo of the interaction, though no serious injuries were reported. The immediate concern for Moore and his team was whether this incident would impact his Arnold Classic preparation, both physically and mentally. Post-fight, the gym owner used social media to further accuse Moore of inappropriate behavior toward staff, prompting Moore to respond publicly. Moore shared texts denying steroid sales and late payments, responding to the gym owner's post with, "Come on, man, be real, what other gym?" Moore's icy gym fight tested his discipline, but our final story throws us into a street brawl so reckless it stopped traffic. Hossein Yaki Boy Balapur. The exact trigger for the escalation remains unclear, but multiple sources point to a pre-existing dispute over money and possibly cars. Underworld and personal sources described it as a lengthy dispute that had been simmering, potentially involving financial debts or business dealings in the fitness industry. Personal messages leaked to media outlets suggested Balapur owed money to Yakub, leading to a confrontation. The brawl unfolded on January 17, 2023, around midday on a busy street in Zetland, an inner-city suburb of Sydney. Video footage, captured by bystanders and widely shared on social media, for example, Instagram Reels and X posts, shows the following sequence. A group of men, including Balapur and Yakub, gather near a hedge-lined sidewalk, appearing to argue intensely. Balapur initiates physical contact by shoving Yakub to the ground and throwing punches. The fight spills into the road, with the men chasing each other through oncoming traffic, narrowly avoiding cars, including a red sedan and blue SUV that brake suddenly. What made this fight particularly shocking was its brazen disregard for public safety. Balapur pulls an object, possibly a phone or small item, from his pocket and uses it to strike Yakub multiple times while he's down. Bystanders intervene to separate them. Yakub appears bloodied but walks away. The chaos causes traffic disruption, with cars swerving and honking. The video is blurry and chaotic, lasting about 1-2 minutes with no clear audio of the argument. Analysis of frames confirms aggressive shoving, punching, and headbutting by Balapur. No weapons like knives were visible, but the fight was described as vicious and predatory. On X, posts from January 18, 2023 amplified the footage, with users like @9newssid sharing the clip and garnering 89,000 views. Comments ranged from shock at the recklessness to speculation about steroid-fueled aggression. Police raided Balapur's home in Rosebery on January 20, 2023, and arrested him dramatically at a gym, dragging him off a treadmill while shirtless and wrestling him to the ground in front of onlookers. Video of the arrest shows 5 heavily armed officers from NSW Police's Raptor Squad, subduing him, handcuffing him, and leading him out. Yakub was not arrested. Balapur faced multiple charges related to the brawl, including affray, using an offensive weapon with intent to commit an indictable offense, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and recklessly causing grievous bodily harm. He was also on bail for unrelated assaults, for example, punching a man at a Persian restaurant and a fan at a music festival. That brings us to the end of this story. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.